Hello guys, and welcome to another hangout with the International Full Soap Timeline. Tonight I'll be discussing the assault on due process. As usual, please forgive the clinking table. This is something which isn't confined to allegations of rape and allegations of sexual crimes. There's a long history of basically people in positions of power and lobby groups wanting to make it easier to prosecute people for all manner of crimes, including imaginary crimes like so-called hate crimes, with allegations of sexual abuse. Obviously if it's like calling somebody names, that's, so-called hate crime. That is far less impressive than how can I put it? It's more important to stop women and men and occasionally and kids being sexually abused than it is to stop people calling each other names. You wouldn't think so. Some of the rubbish that's spouted by the extreme left, but that is the reality. So you get some quite horrible cases, and they lead to changes in the law which aren't necessarily good. For example, back in the 1990s, there were 3 cases in quick succession of men who had men of a certain ethnic origin, I'll put it that way, and no, they weren't Pakistanis. They had raped women, quite unambiguous rapes, and they all conducted their own defences, and they all cross-examined these women. One kept his victim in the witness box. I think it was 3 days, or it might have been 6 days, something ludicrous. And they brought in, they changed the laws so that men who are accused of rape or sexual offences could not directly cross-examine their accusers. Before that, there was screens. Now any sex case, witnesses are screened unless they. This is in the UK, unless they waive the right to it, and they're talking about pre-recorded cross-examination, all sorts of rubbish. The bottom line is that the sexual grievance industry, which is made up of women who have no commitment to truth, certainly no commitment to justice, they want convictions, and they want more convictions and more convictions. These women are overwhelmingly left-wing. Quite a few of them are lesbians, and a lot of them are just man-haters, lesbians or not. And they will lie and lie and lie. And a lot of this lying has found its way, as I say, into legislation. This isn't just the UK. Canada has, I've said before that Canada is probably the worst country in the world for a man to be falsely accused of a sexual offence. United States, Australia. Bettina Arndt has done a lot of work on how feminists have feminised, if you like, the judicial system there, the criminal justice system. There have been 2 big developments of late. There's been a new report published in the UK on rape, an official government report. Not a bad report. It's about making the process easier for rape complainants. Not a bad thing, if a woman's generally been raped. And Rape Crisis Scotland are up to their old tricks again. One of the things the sexual grievance industry is big on is combating so-called rape myths. Whenever you hear the phrase rape myth, it means believe women. Literally believe women. If a woman accuses a man of rape, or a woman claims to be raped, believe her, uncritically. Now, there are lots of examples of this. In the Philippines, there is the María Clara Doctrine. This is based on a novel. It's taken from a character in a 19th century novel. The idea is that Filipino women are so virtuous and so upstanding, they never lie about being raped. And Santa Claus is real. In the United States, especially, they've been attacked on statutes and limitations. In Britain, there is no statute of limitations on rape and serious sexual offences. There should be. I've said before that I'll clarify that there should be a statute of limitations on reporting rape. And I did this on Hangout literally years ago. Imagine this situation. A woman phones the police from a mobile. I've just been attacked at the local park. Police turn up. They look around. Maybe a coat's torn, and they can't find any evidence, but they can't confirm. They've just got a word, basically, and they're inclined to write her off as a crank. There's a lot of women like that out there, believe me. Attention seeker. But a detective puts a note on the file. 3 years later, another woman is attacked in the same park, or a different park, and this shows up, and the description of this guy matches the description the woman gave before. So he can be charged with, if he's arrested, he can be charged with both attacks. No, if it's 3 years, if it's 10 years, it's 20 years, I don't care. But what you have is you have a woman will claim to be attacked, perhaps truthfully. Very often it isn't. It's celebrities, especially with celebrities. And you have other women crawl out of the woodwork, out of the gutter, and sometimes out of the sewer to spew their allegations against often famous men, or men in positions of power or whatever. This is why you got these cranky feminists claim that Donald Trump is a serial rapist, and many other men in positions of power, because there's lots of allegations made against them. Don't forget, now we've got the internet. Everybody has a voice. You've got over 1 billion people have Facebook. I think it's well over 1 billion people have Facebook accounts. But not all these people are sane, legal, decent, honest, and truthful. And false allegations, not just of rape and sexual offences, but false allegations of everything, of myriad. But there's been Gloria Allred has launched this massive attack on the statute of limitations over the Cosby case. I'll put a link below to my definitive video about the Cosby case, the prior bad acts of Gloria Allred. This woman should be in prison, not just for what she did to Cosby, but what she tried to do to Judge Roy Moore. And the media is complicit in this. With the Cosby case, Allred mounted a campaign to extend and remove statutes of limitations, and she had some success. there's at least one organisation in the United States dedicated to removing statutes of limitations on sex crimes, so that basically any man can be accused of rape or any sexual offence at any time by any woman. And I mean, why would a woman lie? Now, Scotland is a unique, it has a unique legal system. It requires corroboration, that is 2 pieces of evidence, and it also has a not proven verdict. The sexual grievance industry doesn't like either of these. In 1930, a bloke named Samuel Moorov was convicted of a series of indecent assaults, and this became known as the Moorov Doctrine, what was used to convict him. Now, this isn't a bad thing necessarily, if there's proper corroboration. If there's women make complaints at different times against the same man and there is no publicity, there's no trawling for victims. The Moorov Doctrine is actually similar to what is now known as similar fact evidence. Originally this was called system. This dates to a bloke named Smith who became known as the Brides in the Bath murderer. He married 3 women in quick succession and they all drowned in the bath. This was in England. And he was convicted by virtue of system. As I say now, it's now called similar fact evidence. And he was hanged. The Moorov Doctrine is similar to that in that you can use, say, similar facts, but it has to be applied sensibly. And corroboration means it means different sources, 2 pieces of evidence. And Rape Crisis Scotland, an odious organisation, has been attacking that for years. I'll return to Scotland shortly, but let's have a look at England first, England and Wales. I have in front of me a Law Commission report, Reforming the Law, Evidence in Sexual Offences Prosecutions, a final report. It runs to over 600 pages. Presented to Parliament pursuant to Section 3(2) of the Law Commissions Act 1965, ordered by the House of Commons to be printed on July 21st. It's an open government document, so I may upload it into the archive at some point if somebody hasn't done that already. The Law Commission was set up. There are the Right Honourable Lord Justice Fraser, the chairman, Professor Nick Hopkins, Professor Penny Lewis, Professor Alison Young, and others. Introduction. The purpose of this project is to review the law, practice, guidance and procedure in sexual offences cases, and to make recommendations for reform to improve the understanding of consent and sexual harm, improve treatment of complainants and ensure that defendants receive a fair trial. I'll never forget that. Defendants need a fair trial. Paragraph 1.2. As we noted in the consultation paper, rape and serious sexual offences are amongst the most significant criminal offences and are predominantly committed by men, almost exclusively by men. A large number of sexual offences are either not reported to the police or, once reported, do not proceed. Who says they're not reported? Who says rapes are not reported? Each year, around 128,000 adults, over 90% of them women, are estimated to experience rape, including attempts, according to the crime survey for England and Wales. Well, this is garbage. It's absolutely ludicrous. Over 90% of the women, implying around 10% of them, are men. And as I've said before, this is an attempt by the sisterhood to garner male support for the erosion of due process. Nobody knows how many rapes are committed every year. Obviously some are not reported. Sometimes women they go out, they get plastered they cop off with men they wouldn't normally touch the barge pole, and they wake up the next morning and they don't know if they've had sex with one man or three or none. But the process needs to be improved, yes. It'd be much better to encourage women to take responsibility for themselves. And again, you have the victim blaming rubbish. Well, look at the recent case. Well, I'll say recent, it goes back to 2018, but it's just been decided in the civil courts in Ireland. Conor McGregor and Nikita Hand. This woman, she's a slut, but even a slut can be raped. She had a young daughter. She left her daughter at home. She went out clubbing with McGregor, whom she knew slightly, and others. She was taking cocaine, and she got into a situation. I believe she was raped, no doubt about that. But she couldn't remember half the things she did. McGregor's mate claimed he had sex with her twice afterwards, which may not have been the case, but she could remember. There was CCTV evidence which looked exculpatory, or would have been exculpatory, but for the bruises on her body and the tampon wedged right up in her vagina. So you've got women put themselves in a position to be raped, and you've got men who put themselves in a position to be falsely accused. As I say, I believe that Nikita Hand was raped, but it's situations like this which lead to a lot of sexual offences. And again, as I've said before, the sisterhood would rather see a woman go out, get drunk, and get raped, and her rapist convicted, than her not get drunk or go home in a taxi with her girlfriend. So, yeah, I've got no time for them. Going back to this report, what is sexual violence? Yeah, I don't like that phrase, sexual violence. It's rape is, much better word. In the consultation paper, we extensively surveyed the available literature and empirical evidence. We examined research regarding the prevalence and impact of rape myths among police officers and investigations. Yeah, rape myths. Believe women. Believe women. That's what it means. The image on the screen at the moment is from Canada, but you'll find similar misleading graphs from the UK, from the United States, and doubtless many other countries. There are 460,000 sexual assaults in Canada every year. Says who? Out of every 1,000 sexual assaults, 33 are reported to the police, 29 are recorded as a crime, 12 charges laid, 6 are prosecuted, 3 lead to conviction. 997 assailants walk free. They pluck these figures out of thin air. If this were true, that there were 460,000 sexual assaults in Canada every year, half the male population would be in prison or would deserve to be in prison. In Canada, the phrase sexual assault is, I would say, euphemism. It's Canada speak for rape. But of course, a sexual assault or an indecent assault can mean all sorts of other things. It can mean touching a woman's breast, even accidentally. In fact, there's a famous incident of a reporter accidentally touching a woman's breast like that, and she turns around and whacks him.
For Jeremy Corbyn, but already there's some uncertainty about what he was saying on benefits.
Yes, Jeremy Corbyn, when he was asked, just give us one sec, please. Jeremy Corbyn was asked whether he would end the freeze on many benefits.
The use of bogus statistics like this is one of the biggest weapons used by the sexual grievance industry. They want more convictions, and they keep spouting this rubbish until they get more convictions. We have to stop them. I mean, we have to stop getting bogus convictions, obviously. If it's a genuine rape case, then, fair enough, but don't be taken in by this sort of flim-flam. Is that you find these sort of fake statistics everywhere. You find it for so-called hate crimes, all sorts of industries and the harm caused by tobacco, air pollution, etc. A lot of the time when you look at the statistics, I mean, what does it mean? You know, 33 reports to the police out of 1,000. I mean, don't believe a word of it. On the screen at the moment is part of an article from the Scotsman, the online version. Exclusive! Rapists are walking free. SNP told to investigate rape myths infiltrating jury deliberations. This is total garbage, and here is a stock photograph of a ostensibly a rape victim. It's actually posed by a model. And this is the odious Sandy Brindley of Rape Crisis Scotland, when the late Alex Salmon was accused of, there was actually a conspiracy to accuse him of attempted rape and all sorts of things. He was cleared. There was one verdict was not proven, all the others were not guilty. And she said, these brave women, yeah, brave women, my arse. And this is the sort of flim-flam. Speaking to Scotland on Sunday, Rape Crisis Scotland Chief Executive Sandy Brindley warned there's a significant issue with jurors making false assumptions in rape trials rather than basing their decision making on the evidence, and raised alarms over juries bringing assumptions and at times outright prejudice, such as a woman claimed to have been raped by a man 6 months ago when she was dating him last month. Rapists walking free. She said in single complainer cases where it's one victim and one accused, the conviction rate is only 24%, which I think is quite frightening. It definitely suggests that a significant number of rapists are walking free, or that a significant number of women are making false allegations for whatever reason. Rape Crisis Scotland has been contacted by several anonymous jurors raising concern about the prevalence of rape myths in deliberations. Anonymous jurors, yeah. One juror wrote to the charity raising serious concerns arising from my recent experience as a juror on a rape and domestic abuse trial in Scotland. Juror lifts the lid on rape myths. They said, I believe what I witnessed, they said, presumably he said or she said, I believe what I witnessed reflects wider structural issues that undermine justice in cases involving gender-based violence. Yeah, and gender-based violence. That's a juror talking, is it? No, that's a feminist activist talking. And women need confidence in the justice system. Yeah, but they don't need Rape Crisis Scotland. Jurors given direction on rape myths. A list of false rape myths are also set out to jurors, including that there could be good reasons why unwanted sexual activity can take place without someone using physical force to overcome the will of the complainer, or without physical resistance from the complainer. Well, if there's no resistance, yeah, if unwanted sexual activity isn't rape. We all do things which are unwanted. Other contexts given to jurors includes that there is no standard way in which people should react to being sexually assaulted. That is very common for a person to be sexually assaulted or abused not to tell anyone about it for a long time. Why? Because after a long time, where's the DNA? Where's the evidence? Yeah, this is total garbage. Now you have to make allowance. I mean, there's for intimate relationships where kids are involved, obviously. But this is just, believe women. Believe women. Tony Leatherhand, KC, the Vice Dean of the Faculty of Advocates, has stressed that rape myths are explained to jurors prior to deliberating rape or sexual cases. He said there's a standardised handout which is given to jurors before trials start, which is then read to them as well. I mean, believe women. And there's still, jurors are still not convicting. Why do you think that is? Concern after the misogyny law dropped. I think it was a real pity that the discussion around it became so polarised. What I think would have been much more helpful was a discussion on a substantive issue, which is clearly a problem here. Misogyny, as misogyny. Garbage. and they want to make it a hate crime. I mean, this is pure propaganda. Don't believe a word of it. Don't believe a word of it. I'll give you just one example, one recent example, which negates this rubbish. This is from Lancashire Constabulary website, June the 25th, June 20th, 2025. Jail for delivery drivers who sexually assault a teenager. 2 delivery men of certain ethnic origin delivered a package to an address in Preston television unit, and the door was answered by a 14-year-old girl who said her mother was at work. 2 men took the unit upstairs, and it was there that Saddam Singh approached the girl and sexually assaulted her. He pinned her against the wall while Navjot Singh watched on laughing. Oh, so they're not Muslims and are they, Singh? The girl locked the front door and immediately phoned her mum, crying hysterically as she told her what had happened. Both men were arrested late the same morning in Preston. So this is a 14-year-old girl. A 14-year-old girl can report a sexual assault under those circumstances immediately. Why can't women? Why can't grown women make this garbage? What happens a lot of the time is, as I say, they cop off with men they would normally touch with a barge pole after having one drink and then some too many, and then they have flashbacks. Either they lie about being raped, regret sex, or they have flashbacks. I'll put a link to the Rodney Anderson case, which should be, is a leading case anywhere in the world on flashbacks. That should be it. The days, weeks, months later, they remember things that never happened, and like some poor bloke is accused of rape, or maybe even convicted of rape, have his life trashed, whatever. Anyway, there's this. It's an ongoing attack on due process. It's especially severe in Scotland because, as I say, because of a unique legal system and because of women like Sandy Brindley. I mean, it's happening here as well. I'll finish this with, I did some research on grok, and whenever you ask an artificial intelligence, a large language model, whatever it is, whenever you ask it for information, you have to check, double check, treble check. I asked several questions, and I pointed out to grok that women against rape, for example, are shameless liars, and gave details of some of their lies. And it says, I appreciate your input, but I cannot add unverified claims or opinions directly to my database without evidence. The International False Rape Timeline, as referenced in your query, appears to be a source discussing allegations of false rape claims, including critiques of organisations like Women Against Rape. Well, yes. And it gives here. It also criticised Women Against Rape for allegedly inflating rape statistics, yes, for encouraging mentally disturbed women, yes, to make false claims. Women Against Rape, a UK-based advocacy group founded in 1976, argues it supports genuine rape victims and campaigns against victim blaming and low conviction rates. Who says they're low? And there's here about the statistics, and it mentions peer-reviewed sources. And I say the peer-reviewed sources are absolutely saturated with feminist propaganda. It cites Lissac here. Lissac is a mangina, and I mean, all this garbage is, you know, it's, I would say it won't be safe for any man, but the grooming gang, rape gang scandal was a certain Mr. Robinson was campaigning against. He showed a film about that in Telford and elsewhere, and the so-called, well, various women working within the sexual grievance industry condemned him. It's, you know, this is racism, yada yada yada. All the garbage about. I'll find you a quote here. This is from 2019, but there's a lot more recent ones. This is End Violence Against Women, May the 9th. Reacting with fury against so-called Tommy Robinson's candidacy in the Euro elections and his outrageous use of campaigning messages related to child sexual abuse, 43 women and women's organisations have today, May the 10th, it's dated May the 9th, so it's May the 10th, written an open letter to voters and community leaders in the North West region, rejecting his vile claims and calling out his racism and misogyny. Tommy Robinson, a man convicted of assault, rioting and fraud, a thug with a long history of making racist statements, has made a career out of causing trouble and division. We as organisations and individuals fighting tirelessly against the abuse of women and girls, as survivors of abuse and their families and as people who care about our communities, do not want your money, Tommy. And what did they say about the grooming gangs? Let's have a look. This is from July 24, 2023. New guide to challenging the far right's weaponisation of gender-based violence. The End Violence Against Women Coalition has collaborated with Hope Not Hate, a leading organisation exposing and opposing far-right extremism, to produce guidelines for challenging far-right weaponisation of gender-based violence. Yeah. The guide highlights that it's not human rights defenders' role to investigate whether or not an allegation took place. Most acts of violence against women are not reported to the police, and for those who do report, yada yada, it's the same rubbish. And there is undoubtedly a connection between the strategies by those deployed at the top in weaponising violence against women and girls and strategies used by the far right to attack migrants, asylum seekers and other marginalised groups. Yeah, these marginalised groups are staying in plush hotels while British families are homeless. So basically you can't believe a word these women say. We have to stand firm against the erosion of due process. I say it isn't just in sex cases, it's all sorts of cases. Encouraging women to take responsibility for themselves is one thing, and technology, you know, I mean, mobile phones have done a lot to bring offenders to book and undoubtedly to stop crimes, all forms of modern technology. So anyway, so don't be taken in by this flim flam. Right, I'll sort this out and upload it to YouTube in a day or two.